Wildman, and we are going to be talking to Michael Lovan from Murder Barry Wynn, uh, who was just screening at the Oxford Film Festival. It both screened and in person, and it's also screening virtually. And Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, we always start a show here by having you introduce our audience to the film, since they have not had a chance to see it as yet, likely. So tell us about Murder Barry Wynn.
Right. So Murder Barry Win is about three young dreamers who want to strike it big in the indie board game scene with their game, Murder Barry Win. But when their attempt to crowdfund the game fails and they think all hope is lost, a mysterious benefactor comes along and offers to publish their game on the condition that he is listed as the sole creator. One thing leads to another, and the dreamers wind up with a body on their hands. And not knowing where to turn, they look to their game for guidance. The objective of their game, how to kill someone and get rid of the body.
All right. I want to start off with this because, you know, am I correct? Is this a feature film debut?
That's correct. This is my directorial debut.
Okay, feature film debut. And for your feature film debut, you chose to combine suspense elements and comedy. As anybody would say, let me take the easiest route possible. So let me do this thing, which takes a very careful balance of tone and style. So let's talk about how you went about that balance, because I think you do it very well in this film.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Well, I grew up on screwball comedies that my dad loved, and my mom couldn't be bothered to watch anything that had a funny bone. She preferred suspense thrillers, and it's kind of like, well, I kind of want to make something that even my father, he's passed on. My mom's still around, but I want to make a film that they both would have enjoyed. And honestly, it was just thinking about like, well, would this make them laugh? Would this make them stressed? And how can I, marry both together line by line and moment to moment? How can I like really stress my dad out who's used to laughing? And how could I, make my mom laugh when she usually prefers getting stressed? And so it was just thinking about my parents the entire time I was writing the script and rewriting it, and also, sprinkle in my own sense of humor, which obviously comes from living in a household that was both stressful and hilarious.
I do a thing routinely where on Facebook I'll post movies with mom. Where
Yeah,
I'll pick a movie to watch with my 90-year-old mom,
yeah.
and and then I'll print some of the dialogue, because my mom is one of those people that like talks back to the screen, or she'll pepper you with questions throughout the movie. And she has very specific things like she loves revenge movies, but she also wants the fights or kills to be one person at a time. Otherwise, it's hard for her to keep track.
Yeah, I get it. I get that too. like like I do not like rewinding huge confusing action scenes so that my mom can, get all those details.
Exactly.
Done
Um,
it times.
all right, and you also you have, I mean, for obvious reasons, your film is centered on on the work of three actors, and I would say a fourth for a certain period of time. But you've got three young guys in this film. So obviously, you knew going in. I mean, everything is about the relationship between these three. Um, if I, how would they say the percentages of casting as far as the success of your movie? It's like 90% casting or something that people have said. Talk
Absolutely.
about talk about the casting of these three guys.
Absolutely. So the I gotta say, like, I'm so lucky that I got these three in particular who did not know each other before we did our cast reading. The role of Adam, played by Eric Lane, he's someone that I met in college. He's actually the first friend I met at UCLA when we went to theater school. And I told myself, he plays Adam, who's probably the more unhinged of the three characters. I told myself, I want to see my friend play a lunatic. And because I know he has it in him. He's a regular on Dear White People. I've seen him play a bunch of comedic roles where he's goody two shoes, and I thought, nah, he can do more than this. And so he was, my first call I made once I knew this is going to be a SAG production. Um, Michaelin Walker, who plays Chris, is a little bit more even keeled, kind of the guy that's aspiring to be a star. And that was actually a recommendation on behalf of a casting friend. And I reached out to a casting friend with a long list of requirements. Someone that's really funny, who's very even keeled, who looks like they could explode at any moment, but also you really want them to succeed. And she had only one recommendation for me. It was Michaelin Walker, and she said like it has to be him. I got to him on the phone, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, dude, this is absolutely my Chris." And as for Barrett, who's played by Henry Alexander Kelly, he was a backstage audition online, and it's one of those things where I didn't have a complete vision for how this character could be played. And Barrett, in my mind, is the heart of the group, the creative soul of creating the game or any creative process. And once I saw this audition that went up a few hours after I put the audition online, I just couldn't see the role any other way. And I was like, well, I can't not cast him because I'd be anyone after this, like they're going to be comparing to someone that I just saw. So I got him on Skype, talked to him a few minutes, and I offered it to him pretty quickly. He probably thought that was really shady or creepy. This, this guy online that's like, hey, you want to roll? He this up a few hours ago. I'll give you the role. Uh, so it wasn't until I sent him the contracts that he realized that I was being serious. And had my first table reading, and you never know how that's going to go, but everyone gelled like butter. And so rehearsals were um I live in a different town from all them. They're in LA, I'm in the Bay Area of California. And so I really just trusted them to get together and get their lines, and working with them together was just you can't get a better group of guys than them. I'm convinced they should always be working together in some capacity.
Awesome, awesome. Let's talk about the effects, because you're not working with a whole lot of money, and so you've got to be judicious with how you use effects. And I've experienced with this where your effects person goes, the sprayer didn't work, and you're going, dude, we have one shot at this. What the hell?
Yeah.
So talk about the blood work. Talk about the stuff. Again, as a first-time feature director, talk about what a pain in the ass that is. And how you overcame those challenges.
Yeah. Well, going in, I told myself, like I love myself a gory film. Brain Dead or Dead Alive is one of the masterpieces of my life. But I told myself we're not going to linger on a lot of gore here, because I think that a lot of first time filmmakers, have the run into an issue where like the frame is contingent on the gore being on screen, but it doesn't pass. And so maybe the shot doesn't really work on multiple levels. And so I told myself, we're going to see it in short bursts of violence, just very short bursts of the gore. But thankfully on set, I had a wonderful effects artist, Heather Gallipo, who also did all the wardrobe and continuity of props, and also hair and makeup. She is a pro, and she could have made anything look great. And so uh, the real challenge for us was, we're shooting in an Airbnb cabin where we have to get everything to look the way it was before we were shooting. And so she's got like, X amount of buckets of blood because, I didn't have a lot of money and it's self-funded. And so we were very liberal with our usage of blood on the floor. There's tons of blood streaks. By, I'd say, of a 14-day shooting period, by like day, I don't know, 5, we're running low on the blood. we're up in the cabins in the middle of the wood. Like we're not gonna like waste a day like going like losing her to go get some more blood. So it's really about being efficient and making sure my storyboards are actually what they should be. Am I getting the right shots? Am I prioritizing the correct things? And so what we have here in the film is a film that really is minimal in seeing the blood. And I think it worked to my benefit because it forced me to stage things theatrically, like we would have done, back in maybe the 60s or 70s or way before then, where it was more about like one camera lingering on actors and letting them just breathe in the space, like a piece of theater. And I'm glad that it worked out that way because, man, we had no blood by the end. And that was like, just made it in the nick of time.
That's awesome. I feel your pain. Anybody who's made a film like this, has that moment where they go, I can't believe all of this is coming down to the fact that this freaking stuff won't go up this damn tube. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Heather had a lot of workarounds for any issues like that. We do have one moment where blood has to spray, and
Yeah.
she was off. She used just like a little like water spray, like not a tube or anything. She was like just off camera by an inch, shooting Henry in the eye with a bottle of blood, and that worked out for the very little amount of blood she had to use.
That's awesome. All right, the final question is, and I come this again from another personal thing. I made my film with my wife. We
Yeah.
co-wrote it, co-produced it together, and so we suffered through so much of that experience. As far as like, the only time, in fact, we would ever argue would be like 2 a.m. over wardrobe choices, and things like that.
Yep.
So talk about working with your wife on this, and one, how amazing it is to be able to have that person that you love be your support system, and kind of co-partner in crime, and then what maybe is also a little tricky about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm fortunate in that from the very first date, my Amy Everson, and I just had we just clicked creatively, and I have learned in the 7-8 years since then that like if we have a disagreement creatively, she's usually right. And I've learned to just like if she sees an issue with something, okay, benefit of a doubt goes to her, unless she's made a really dumb case, which she hasn't yet, but I'm waiting. Um, so she was ride or die through all the pre-production, and the trick is the particular trick with us is that she was pregnant with our first child during production, and because we were up in the mountains and it was really rickety, really hard to get to the location, we didn't deem it was maybe feasible or safe to have her doing that every day. So she was available via phone during production, and I would talk to her frequently because on set I did have a few sources of sanity, but really she's the one who understood the story, who understood why the script had to be the way it was from the beginning. So I had the inverse issue wherein I would have given anything to have her there on set to argue about wardrobe or whatever, because she was the one person that could disagree with me, and I could see the logic in what she was doing. But being on set, I didn't have, the external force of her saying like, Michael, are you sure that's right? Okay, listen, dum dum, come here. Don't do that. I really had to tap into her. And what would she do? What would she think? And she became a Jiminy Cricket of sorts on set. For the next production, whatever that is, and whenever that'll be, I hope to have her and my 2-year-old there to tell me no.
I remember at one point we had to completely re-choreograph a big a fight to the death, and so the next morning, my wife and I were in the office of the studio where we were shooting, and I think she had a baseball bat and I had an axe or something, and we're like going at, and apparently like one of the PAs was walking past with a gaffer, and they go, what are they doing? And I think the gaffer said, well, they're married. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's really the only answer.
Well, listen. The film is it. It sounds kind of funny maybe to describe it as delightful, but it is delightful.
Thank you.
In a weird, twisted way. And congratulations on it. Like I said, you know, taking on the challenge of, like I said, getting that tone right. Again, as posters behind me, American Werewolf in London is one of my favorite films, and I think is like the preeminent, comedy horror, film. To be able to take on that challenge, man, good on you for doing it, and good on you for pulling it off.
I really appreciate that, John. And your film, is it out there in the world? Can I learn more
Yeah,
about
yeah, absolutely. It's the Ladies of the House.
the
Uh,
ladies of the house? I have
the Ladies of the House. Yes. Um,
awesome.
Yeah, there you go. And again, the film is Murder Barry Wynn, and we've been talking with Michael Lovan on Films Gone Wild. The film is screening at the Oxford Film Festival. Michael, it's been great having you on the show.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. This is really fun.